Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast from mediation.vn. Hi, I'm Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator.
And I am Natalia Łowska-Czajka, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator too.
This is Thomas Giglione, mediator and arbitrator, and I'm based here in Hanoi, Vietnam. And I'd like to introduce Jeff Aresty from Internet Bar Organization. Making technology work for justice is the slogan. Nice to meet you, everybody, today.
Thank you so much. In today's episode, we will be talking about something that seems like it's far away from us yet, but the reality is we are in it already now. We are talking about collaboration in the new data economy. We are talking, therefore, about what everybody can do and how our reality of everyday life will change if we are entering this new cyber world of the cyber trade. And Jeff Aresty, who is here with us, is an absolute specialist to tell us something about it, some basic rules, some introduction to it, especially when it comes to the identity issues. Jeff, when you think about the new data economy and the identity, and what comes to your mind first?
Well, it's like we're at the beginning of a new era, and people don't get it. It's amazing to me, except the young people who are playing in the cloud all the time, they get it. They understand what's going on. The cyber hackers, the cyber terrorists, the people who are shutting down, using a broken internet to shut down oil and pipe gas lines, the financial industry is at risk. We're playing with on an internet, all of us, that's broken because identity on the internet is essentially whatever we want it to be. So we can have as many identities as we want, and yet the internet is not safe for us anymore. The new data economy is being built as we speak on new technologies that operate in cyberspace on the internet, and each one of us as individuals have the opportunity to participate in building it and making it a new, safe, and trustworthy place. But it requires effort. We need to show up there. We need to work cross-generationally, cross-culturally to get it. The young people need to work with the older people and vice versa. And the new data economy, which is essentially founded on the fact that each one of us, when we enter cyberspace, we're not individuals anymore. We are the data that we create, and we have to be trustworthy about what we're doing about it. Right now, we aren't. We just go there and we don't think about it. And we leave our data in the hands of all kinds of intermediaries who do all types of things with it. And then hackers come in and steal it because we're acting very human. It seems to be very human to be very careless about it. So we have a chance to make a difference now and build a new data economy. It's being built. It's being built by people like Thomas, yourselves, and others. So we just want to get it organized and do it in such a way that it's fair for all.
So, before I move on to Thomas to give a quick introduction from his point of view on this topic, want to share my screen real quick. And I have up the internetbar.org. And this is basically your company, Jeff. But tell us briefly about the Internet Bar, IBO, and the work it's doing with, in the new data economy.
Well, you can see in this picture my former executive director leading a contest in Kibera, Kenya. This is in 2014. And you can see that Kibera, Kenya is one of the most challenging places in the world to live outside of Nairobi. It is a slum orientation. And we ran a major contest there, a music contest. And we invited all the young people in the community, boys, girls, men, women, to participate and sing and essentially get access to a global marketplace. And that's Ruha with a team of about 15 others. We had photographers, we had lawyers from big law firms, we had students from peace building programs, We had musicians, artists, you name it. We had about 15 people that came. We had partners on the ground, local NGOs from Africa, from Nairobi, about 3 of them, and then a couple of other organizations here. So we put together a major contest, and that's how you collaborate. You bring together everybody, and the new data economy is music was the data. We were creating new data. And using our collective influence to reach out to the world to sell it. So that's an example of it. And of course, identity is at the foundation of it, because you have, when you're creating something that you're going to monetize in some fashion, you have to have rights to it. So you're creating rights to this, and the rights are intellectual property, creators' rights. But creators haven't been treated fairly in the legal systems of the world today. So we have the opportunity through private contract to create a fairer system of distribution. And that's where Thomas and Guaranteed Originals showed up with these kinds of opportunities with the new technology that you can link new rules to. And now we can do something even bigger than what we did in Kenya in 2014.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to Thomas. Thomas, can you just jump in and kind of tell us a little bit about your work with IBO and as a mediator and as an arbitrator as well?
Yes, thanks, Mac. Well, what I want to say is what binds us together is that we're all mediators and we're all seeking justice, and we're trying to equalize justice and make sure that everybody has their say. Everyone, human. I call myself. I was telling Jeff the other day. I call myself a humanist, and basically defining myself in a way as a humanist, and I believe that everyone has the right to be recognized as a person before the law. And the problem is 1 out of every 5 people in this world, 1.8 billion people, don't have an identity. Something like 700 million children don't have birth certificates or identity. And what does that happen when you don't have an identity? You don't. People don't have access to justice. They don't have access to, banking and such. Because identity is very important for people to engage. Children can't go to school without the proper registration. So, United Nations started sustainability goals, development goals. There are 17 of them, and number 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions. So that's what brings me together, is that I'm a humanist, and I want to bring together the blockchain and other things that are bringing a way for people, human beings, to get identity, so they can engage, as Jeffrey mentioned, into the economy. And this is a key that is very important for justice.
Right, Natalia, don't hear you.
What you just said, I'm sorry, yes.
Go ahead.
What you have just said, Thomas, is very interesting in terms of the new data economy, which we are discussing today. A lot of people think that this is some sort of a absolutely abstract cyber world when there is no place neither for justice nor for everything. When people think about new data economy, they bring up all these unhuman concept of blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs. And what would you both tell everybody who is terrified about those things happening there, about what sort of social impact it can have? How do you perceive it? And what do you do to make it all be more human-like, human-friendly?
Yes, that's a good question. Well, a lot of people don't understand the technology, and I'll tell you, and I agree with Jeffrey. It's a revolution. It's bigger than 1776. It's bigger than the French Revolution. It's bigger than all of that. It's going to revolutionize the economy like we cannot imagine. That's what I like to tell you. And part of that is going to be a platform. Is you don't have to use the word blockchain, but a platform where blockchain doesn't store your identity, but it's just it's a platform to verify identity. So there's a lot of fake agriculture products, organics. There are a lot of hackers and such, and NFTs are a part of what is happening now with regards to integrating identity onto the blockchain. So now identity could be you know what makes us our identity. Well, our social network, our relatives, our family, our institutions. Well, what we can do now is we don't control a lot of that. A lot of that is centralized. With the new technology now, the person holding the information controls the information, because right now the government controls my identity. My bank controls my identity. My social networks control my identity. Even when I die, I was just checking just the other day on Facebook. When I die, I have to have someone take over the legacy of my Facebook. And if I don't designate that person, my Facebook will continue with my identity. And I went onto the Facebook page, and it said that now they're overwhelmed because of COVID and because of so many deaths and around the world, and they're overwhelmed. There's going to be a 3-month or 6 months delay for the transfer of your Facebook profile to your legacy substitute, that it will take control over your Facebook. So really, we don't have any control of our identity, because the social networks and everything else are controlling it. But with the NFTs, you control your identity. And as lawyers, you work with contracts. Well, NFT is just something about your identity. It could be art, it could be music, that is connected to a smart contract, and that makes for you to control who you are, and it just gets verified by using a platform called a blockchain.
And Jeff, same topic. What are NFTs to you, and what do they have to do with social development and social justice and the work you're doing in IBO?
Well, so let me bring the notion that Thomas just talked about. I made a couple of notes just because he really laid it out very clearly. Our focus in terms of social justice is on the percentage of people that do not presently have an identity. So the term we use is peripheralized youth. In 2009, we worked with a group in Recife, Brazil, young Brazilians, 12, 13, 14 years old, living in the favela, so the really tough slum areas of Recife. And they call themselves Auto Periférico. And periférico means peripheralized. So it's the peripheralized world that Thomas is talking about. And when you talk to people in the human rights community and the peace building community, as many of us do a lot with some of the work that we do, the notion that these peripheralized youth have to be protected against what technology could do to them is what comes through most of the time, because of the feeling that governments use the technology to surveil these people, to keep track of them for their own reasons, whatever those reasons may be. I'm not going to get into that. And so the point is that the human rights community and the peace building community leave a concept that Thomas was referred to as control over your own identity off the table. Well, guess what? The Sustainable Development Goal 16.9 says identity for all. That means that by 2030, the United Nations and all the countries of the world have agreed upon a plan to have identity for all. Now, what does identity for all mean? Does it mean that we have to go through some government where we live? Well, what about the 280 million youth of the world that don't have any country because they've left, they're homeless, they're nowhere, they're in poverty? Those are the people we're focusing on, because they will not be able to be part of identity for all unless the new data economy gives them that opportunity. And again, going back to some of Thomas's points of, those people have an identity. They have the people that they travel with. They have their friends who already made their way to another country that are on Facebook somewhere that they could reach out to, but they grew up together, so they know each other, and they can connect through a social network. They have the ability to prove who they are and wherever they may be. If they're in a refugee camp, maybe they had some skill sets and so forth. So we are in a point where this new data economy gives those young people the chance to take their identity and do what with it? At least tell it to somebody, at least speak up to somebody. But if it's a marketplace, they can do more. How many of us in the United States use Fiverr because there's a whole bunch of, people out there who will literally do our graphic designs, our web, the backgrounds for these programs, anything that we want, they'll do it for $5, $10. They are part of a data economy, but the 270 million youth that can't participate, those are the ones that we're reaching with the kinds of identity tools that would then give them the chance to participate in a new marketplace. That's what the new data economy consists of. And in that new marketplace, the ownership of that creativity, the provenance of it, that it's guaranteed to be original. This is art. This is your original creation. This is created by me. This, in my justice, for those people, is a chance to sell it to the global marketplace. That's what they want. And we want the human rights activists and the peace builders and the mediators of the world who believe in this to see how they can play a role to help these young people identify themselves, because at some points, the whole notion of what is trustworthy is going to have to be determined by new rules, and people are going to be, and they're not going to be made in legislatures. They're not going to be made in countries, coming to agreements around the world. I mean, it only took how many years for the countries of the world this past year to agree that there's going to be a simple corporate tax rate? Well, no, they didn't agree to anything. That has to be passed by every national legislature, in the world. And don't think that some of the countries that have low tax rates are going to be so fast to jump on board. So that creation of rules process needs change. And the kinds of things that Thomas is doing with guaranteed originals is the beginning of that change. He's taking smart contracts, he's matching virtual currency up with it and connecting it to a piece of art that a creator says, this is mine. And then it's our job to go out and reach a marketplace of people who will want to help that person, help her community, and buy it. And the NFT marketplace is global. It's part of the new data economy. It gives us the tools to play in it. There are lots of people there already, by the way. There is a new data economy. It's about 10 years old. It runs on Bitcoin, and it's called ransomware. Okay, it's definitely there. It's an economy, all right, and it's worth $1 trillion or more, and it has its own rules, honor amongst thieves. But it works, and the only way that they get caught, as the federal prosecutors say, is it's spy versus spy. They join the other side. They go in and they pretend they're one of them.
Yeah, humanity's always had pirates. Humanity's always had pirates. As long as we can identify them, they have an identity. We could take care of that. Getting back to justice, working in the area of justice, for about 30 years now. I don't want to be disillusioned, but there's a distinction between the law and justice. And sometimes people say, well, when in an economy-based system, how much justice do you want to buy? And that's the crux of it. So we need to distinguish a global justice system. A lot of people are afraid of globalism, but we need equality, not equality, but we need justice. And how can you help a group of Syrian refugees that lost all their identity, lost their homes, lost everything in Myanmar? How do you help them? How we can't even connect with them. They don't have, a lot of them don't even have mobile phones. They don't have an identity. Most of them will have a mobile phone, but that's the key. Most of them will have a mobile phone. That is a connection for them to control their own identity. And they will have permission to integrate with identity. And now with Jeff, we're looking at, he was involved with Peace Tones and having, young people contribute their art, which becomes part of their identity, part of their music. You could make your crafts, digitize it. You decide what is your identity and integrate with it. A lot of us, we go into a new website and we use social networks like Facebook to log into, secure, we're too tired of remembering our passwords. So what do we use? We use Facebook. Facebook is just monitors your behavior. I'm not sure I want to use Facebook to log into something, my banking or anything involving my university that I work with. They're monitoring my behavior. Why would I want to trust to log in using social network? I want to control who I am and my identity. And the NFT and this new crypto world, if you don't talk about Bitcoin, that's just trade. That's just a exchange of goods with a commodity. So, but in the realm of identity, it's just a platform for us to facilitate so people all over the world will get justice. They're saying 2030, and I believe, most governments like to put it out there far enough so they don't have to worry about it today. But the numbers have not gone down substantially since 2015 when they were first introduced. So I'm very doubtful. And, you're going to have a lot more refugees, not just political refugees, but, because of global warming. Bangladesh, is already experiencing the effects of global warming. You're going to have a lot of, refugees and migrants in the future. I don't have to worry about it now, but future generations are going to have to figure it out. And I think this new tool will help us achieve justice.
Thank you so much for that. But speaking about the identity and the need of identity and how broad the scope of its application can be within the cyber world, what would the role of the cyber notaries would be, and who would become one? How do you see that, both Jeff and Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a great point that I see. Law as a function of legal systems. Legal systems have players in them that are defined by the creators of those legal systems. But as Thomas had pointed out, legal systems and law aren't justice. Justice is in the eye of the beholder. But in any legal system, you have different participants in order to assure that rights which are created in those legal systems can be enforced. And depending upon the philosophy one takes with how you create a legal system, one of the real important roles for a legal system is to make it so clear what the order is that the norms of people are to maintain the system in peace without conflict. And one role that a mediator or an arbitrator or a notary plays in existing legal systems is to keep that peace. In some cases, by encouraging people who are engaging with each other to resolve their own disputes together to keep those relationships. And sometimes you just need a third party to say, this is what justice is based on all that I can because you've asked me to render that decision. As a notary, depending upon the legal system which the notary is used, actually is playing roles of creating trust amongst people ahead of time before they ever get to the point where there is some issue which is beginning to arise. Sometimes it's just simply documenting the originality of a document itself. Sometimes it speaks to the point of who's in a room. So this is critically important in this new field of identity, where the new tools refer to the verification of identity. Thomas mentioned that before, the verification of credentials. So this is the field of self-sovereign identity that has begun to develop. The idea is that, let's just use the example to make it real. So the Syrian nurse who has been a nurse in her country for 25 years, leaves with her family, escapes Syria because of the conflict, and ends up in Lesbos, Greece. There is no legal system in the world that does much for her at this point. About all she can depend upon for justice is whatever rules exist in the camp where she's arrived. Her identity doesn't matter. Her skill sets don't matter. Now, it may be that in that very camp, because as the facts show, more refugees are coming, and this refugee crisis is now years and years along. So maybe in that camp, Doctors Beyond Borders has brought some technology, and there's a telemedicine facility for some of the thousands of people that are in that camp. In the new system, there would be a way of verifying the credentials of this nurse using a mobile phone and using the cloud and the blockchain, which means there's no centralized database. It simply is that she would have in front of her at least a trained person, maybe call them a cyber notary, who would be able to evaluate the type of proof that she's offering from all different sources, social sources, her own sources, people that are with her, maybe by her own reputation and showing things, but she would be responsible. There's the most important point. She would be responsible for recreating her identity, but she would have a benefit at the end of this. She would have control over her identity. It would be portable for her because the new system allows for this. The trouble that we have is that as an agent of change, most people don't believe what I'm saying. Okay, well, guess what? There are lots of very important people who have. I just read an interview with the #2 federal prosecutor against cybercrime, having left and gone to Wall Street to run a cryptocurrency fund. So that's enough to say. A, it's a woman, so she's thought this thing through for sure. Okay, before she left her role, because she saw that she needed to be on the other side and to be able to pursue things that made sense. Cyber notaries will help that Syrian nurse verify her. They will allow her to create a set of credentials which can be verified by that person, so that in the system that they go, nobody else ever needs to verify them again. That's the zero trust element of this blockchain technology. Once it's done right in the beginning, it's trustworthy from that point forward. Now you need accountability. So the cyber notary is the first level of accountability, because notaries in most legacy legal systems of the world deal with documents, know how to establish what's trustworthy, and are held to account in their own legal systems for doing the job right. So instead of creating a new system, why not have old notaries from all existing legal systems learn how to be cyber notaries? That's what Internet Bar is doing. We can certify to that. There are different rules. You need to understand this. It's not just that, okay, I saw that email, it's good. Now we can say this person's trustworthy. Well, maybe that came from a scammer. We don't know. We need to have people trained to understand what's trustworthy and not. So that's part of the job that we're doing. But then you need a market of youth that are deserving, who have the it's SDG 16.9 behind them, that says by 2030, you're going to have an identity. Well, are they going to be first to have the identity or last? I'd like them to be first, not last. The current system, they're going to be last. Okay, that's just the way that the system works. The current system is paying. The only people who are getting identities are where there's money. And so that's why you're finding all the people with banks and developed world. And then there's occasional work in refugee camps that's being done, but it's done for medical purposes and humanitarian aid. And they're now just beginning to pay attention to the things we're talking about, which is these people want human dignity. They want to control their identity, in Thomas's words. And this is how they do it.
Yeah, Thomas, did you want to follow up on that? Because I have a last topic I want to hit with you on SSI.
Yeah, Natalia mentioned who's going to control that, but it's peer-to-peer. So like if I wanted to send you money, I don't need to go to my bank and get my bank involved. I don't need paper currency. I just send you the money and you get it. So it's peer-to-peer with controls to know that you know who I am and you know who you are. So really it's peer-to-peer. Now, talking about social development goals, this technology will help people. For example, in Syria, it's been used where people put and logged atrocities that were happening in Syria on the blockchain. So they're immutable. Nobody could say and delete it and take it away. So it's helped people in situations. You could even create smart contracts connecting to the outside, because when people are in prison for political oppression and such, they have no voice. All their identity is taken away, but you still have the blockchain, and you could still have your smart contracts with your identity to connect to the outside world. You could connect and like they've done in Syria, to log and make the data immutable, so people could see it forever. It's immutable. You can't delete it. Look at Venezuela. The hyperinflation caused by governments. Well, people took control, and they're able to use peer-to-peer currency. Look in West Africa, where now they're sourcing where they're getting their electronics, the rare earth minerals, to alleviate child labor. There, these diamond mines and things like that. So it's lifting people. You could talk about the ransomware and things like that, but overall, it's doing a lot of good. And if you want to see a really good website, it's a Blockchain for Good, I believe. They have thousands of case studies. I think it's called Blockchain for Good, or something like that. Or I could share with you later on. But it's got many cases where this technology is alleviating injustice in the world, and identity is part of that injustice, because a lot of people don't have access to justice just simply because they don't have identity that they cannot control.
All right, thank you for that. So last topic for you, Thomas, and then we'll be wrapping it up. We're going over a little bit over today, only because this is a very interesting topic. It's a very meaty topic that sometimes folks, have to admit goes a little bit over their heads. However, it's something that's not going to go away, and this is the future. And so we all need to get educated and know a little bit more about it. And we appreciate that you two have been individuals who have been working on this field for quite a while. So we love for you to come and continue talking to us about it. All right. So Thomas, you're involved with the recent IBO initiatives for global decentralized identity, or what is commonly referred to as self-sovereign identity, or SSI. Not to be confused with SSI in the US, where we talk about supplemental income, but we're talking about self-sovereign identity. So can you briefly describe what is self-sovereign identity, and what are some use cases that you know of SSI for social development?
Yeah, so it's basically that you have your own wallet, and you control this wallet. I don't want to go into the technical part. That wallet could be on your mobile phone. If you lose your mobile phone, what do you do? Well, you're in charge. You can control the key, and there is a key that allows you to connect. It's like you could start your car. The key allows you just to. Actually, I don't want to use the car as an analogy. It's kind of like connecting a wire to a battery. Okay, you're connecting to the blockchain. You're just connecting it. Okay, you're not storing any data, any personal data on the blockchain. You're just connecting to it for a brief time, and then that gets sent out onto the blockchain, and it's only picked up for someone looking for that specific key, and that key is matched, And then you could incorporate biometrics. You can incorporate fingerprints on your phone or whatever to verify it. It doesn't need any human being to do it, and it's just automatic. So you don't have to, what's the problem with passwords? Well, you always forget them. People try to hack into them. Well, look at this, the case that happened in the United States recently with ransomware. They use passwords. The passwords is like 1980. I couldn't believe that when I heard that they're using passwords. They're not using, this platform to allow for a streamlined way of access to identity. So that's basically how it works. And I don't want to go into too much in detail, but basically you tap into it, and it's automatic, and it happens fairly quickly on not just Ethereum, but there's Sovereign, which is another blockchain. There are several blockchains that are used as a platform to do that. So basically, it's a conduit to access identity very quickly.
Thank you so much. And thank you, both of you. I want to encourage everybody who is listening and watching to also follow us on this and further discussions, because I do think that we will follow up both with Jeff and with Thomas on it. There are so many other topics that instantly come into our heads, and we want to discuss and develop. There needs to be common cautiousness, common awareness of all these things happening around, especially because of its social and global dimensions. And please remember, nothing contained in our talks today are constituted legal advice. If there is any issue that arises out of it, you can consult any lawyers that you find appropriate. And if you learned something new today, be sure to follow and listen through instantmediations.com and through the Instant Mediations app. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by today, and a good conversation, Jeff and Thomas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.